I stood there in the snow, my breath fogging the cold night air, clutching a bag of homemade cookies and gifts wrapped in shiny red paper. It was Christmas Eve, and I'd driven 3 hours through the storm to surprise my son Michael and his family. My heart pounded with excitement as I approached the glowing window of their cozy suburban home in Seattle. But then I heard Sarah's voice, sharp and hushed. "Pretend we're not home." "It's her again." Michael's reply cut deeper. "Yeah, just ignore the doorbell, she'll leave, eventually." My world froze. So I turned away, the snow crunching under my boots, and drove back into the darkness. That was the moment everything shattered, the final crack in a lifetime of cracks. If I'd stayed, I might have begged for scraps of love. But I left, and in leaving, I found myself, oh, how that night haunts me still, like a ghost whispering, in the quiet hours, "I'm Evelyn, 72 years young," or so they say, though my bones ache with the weight of years given away. That Christmas Eve was no accident. It was the culmination of a slow poison I'd ignored for too long. Let me tell you, dear listener, as if you're sitting here with me by the fire, sipping tea from my chipped porcelain cup, the one with the faded roses that remind me of better days. My days now are simple, a rhythm I've carved out in my little bungalow on the edge of town. Mornings start with the creak of my wooden floorboards as I shuffle to the kitchen, the scent of fresh coffee mingling with the faint lavender from the soap I used to wash my hands wrinkled from years of scrubbing floors and folding laundry. I'd pull out the ironing board, steam rising like sizes, pressing Michael's old shirts that he'd left behind years ago, even though he never came for them. Afternoons, I'd tend the garden, my knees protesting against the damp earth as I pruned the roses' thorny beauties that bloomed despite neglect, much like me. The soil under my nails, the buzz of bees, the distant laughter of neighborhood children, it all grounded me, a quiet rebellion against the emptiness. Evenings brought cooking, chopping onions that made my eyes water, stirring pots of stew that filled the house with warmth no one shared. I'd set the table for one, the clink of silverware echoing in the silence, snowflakes tapping the window like forgotten promises. But let's go back, way back, to when love felt endless. I remember the day Michael was born, in that stuffy hospital room in 78, his tiny fist gripping my finger as if to say, "I'm yours forever." I sacrificed everything for him, my job as a teacher, nights without sleep, scraping pennies to buy him that bicycle he begged for at 8. "Mom, you're the best," he'd say, his eyes sparkling. And when Sarah came along, I welcomed her like a daughter, knitting baby blankets for Emily and Jack, driving across town to babysit so they could have date nights. I loaned them money for the down payment on that house, the one with the window that betrayed me. Thousands of dollars, gone without a thank you, just a casual, "We'll pay you back someday." Someday never came. Someday never came. I'd bake pies for their birthdays, the crust flaky and golden, filling the air with cinnamon and apples, only to hear later they'd thrown half away. My love was a necklace I draped around their necks, pearl by pearl, but they let it tangle and break. Over time, the selfishness crept in like frost on glass. Sarah started with small digs. "Evelyn, you don't need to come over so much. We're busy." Busy with what? Their vacations I helped fund. Michael, my own flesh and blood, grew distant, his calls shorter, laced with irritation. "Mom, stop sending gifts. The kids have enough." But I saw the entitlement bloom. Last summer, when I fell ill, pneumonia clutching my lungs like icy fingers, didn't visit, were swamped at work. He texted, swamped. I lay in bed, the room spinning, the silence broken only by the tick of the clock, wondering where my sacrifices had gone. Then came the gaslighting. Sarah on the phone, her voice saccharine. "You're being dramatic, Evelyn. We love you, but you expect too much. Expect too much." After giving my all, the in-laws joined in, whispering about my old-fashioned ways, eyeing my house like vultures circling a will. "Maybe you should downsize," Michael suggested once, his eyes on my savings account. Manipulation wrapped in concern, the cruelest kind. That Christmas Eve was the spark that ignited the fire within. As I drove home through the blizzard, tears freezing on my cheeks, a clarity washed over me like dawn breaking. Enough of pouring my soul into empty vessels. Enough of loneliness disguised as family duty. My heart, battered but beating, whispered truths I'd buried. I deserved dignity, boundaries, peace, no more tomorrows that never came. In the quiet weeks that followed, I had acted silent, deliberate, like a key turning in a long locked door. First, I called my lawyer, the scent of polished wood and old books in his office grounding me as I revised my will. Michael and Sarah removed the house. My independence, embodied in brick and mortar, would go to a charity for single mothers, women like I once was, fighting alone. I canceled the standing transfers from my account, the ones they'd come to expect like clockwork, changed the locks on my doors, the metallic click echoing my resolve, packed up their forgotten belongings, old toys, clothes, photos, and shipped them back with a note, no more. It felt shocking, this quiet revenge, but justified, like pruning dead branches to let the rosebush thrive. I felt empowered, a weight lifting my steps, lighter on the cold floors. Of course they came storming back. It was a crisp January morning, snow blanketing the garden like a fresh start. The doorbell rang insistently, and there stood Michael, face flushed, Sarah behind him with arms crossed. "Mom, what the hell?" The money stopped, and now this box of junk, he barked, his voice echoing the entitlement I'd fed. Sarah chimed in, gaslighting as always. "You're overreacting because of one little misunderstanding. We were just tired that night. You can't cut us off like this. Think of the grandkids." Blame shifting, begging, the script I'd predicted. I stood in the doorway, my shawl wrapped tight like armor, and met their eyes with calm steel. "It's done," I said simply. "You've taken enough." Michael's protests rose. "But we're family. You owe us." "Oh." The word hung in the air like smoke. "No," I replied, voice steady as ocean waves. "Family respects. Family gives back. Goodbye." I closed the door softly, the lock clicking into place, their voices fading like distant thunder. Now, peace envelops me like a warm blanket. I sit by the window, watching sunrise paint the sky in pinks and golds, symbolic of new beginnings. The ocean waves I hear in my mind crash and recede, washing away the pain. My garden blooms brighter, flowers unfurling without apology. The empty chair across from me isn't lonely, it's space for my own dreams. I've rediscovered joy in small things. A book by the fire, the texture of yarn as I knit for myself, the smell of rain on earth. And the lesson, dear one, dignity isn't given, it's claimed. Boundaries aren't walls, they're gardens where self-respect grows. Let go of those who drain you, for karma whispers justice in the wind. In betrayal's shadow, empowerment blooms. Hold your heart close, it's the only home that truly matters.